everybody, I'm Nick, and get ready to be blinded. This is going away. Swagger is being removed by .NET with a release of .NET 9. Now in this video I'm going to explain why this is happening and what you should expect, and also how you can adapt when this is eventually removed in .NET 9. If you like our content and you want to see more, make sure you subscribe for more training. Check out my courses on domtrain.com. Okay, so let me show you what I have here. So first I'm going to go into the GitHub issue, which sort of spread this panic initially when released. And the GitHub issue is this one: announcement. Swashbuckle.ASP.NET Core, the package that adds Swagger support in .NET, is being removed in .NET 9. Now I want to clarify, this doesn't mean the package is removed from NuGet or you won't be able to use it. All this means is no longer going to be a built-in package that comes with .NET when you create a new .NET project. Microsoft is removing it. And they have a few reasons why. First, they said that they introduced it all the way back in .NET 5 because it allowed for built-in OpenAPI support, which is one aspect of all this. And then you have the Swagger aspect of it, which refers to the set of tools for working with OpenAPI documents. And one of those sets of tools is this web UI that everyone knows and loves, the go, try out, execute, and so on. This is now being removed from the built-in templates. The reason being that Swashbuckle, even though it's a great project and they appreciate the time and effort of the owner, well, it's no longer actively maintained, which, by the way, since the creation of this post has changed. I think the project is again active. Weird timing, it feels a bit reactionary, but that's the case. And as Microsoft is mentioning, there are other projects like NSwag, great alternative as well, but they did not decide to add NSwag, which is more actively maintained. Instead, they decided to basically do it on their own, but in the process, they're ditching the UI aspect of it. So now when you create a new API, you won't have a built-in UI. And even though there's an issue tracking this, from what Microsoft has said, there is no official plans to offer an UI out of the box. Instead of what they're going to do is they're going to give you documentation to add the UI you want. So now creating a new project, you won't have this very, very nice UI unless you go ahead and you add it manually. You can still go back and add Swashbuckle and add NSwag. But then the question becomes, are these libraries going to have to compete with Microsoft, and can they survive if they have to compete with Microsoft? Because options are great, but where are all those dependency injection libraries anymore? Or when Microsoft eventually launches their messaging solution, where the messaging libraries are going to be? There's always a drawback when Microsoft says, we won't have this anymore as a NuGet package, instead we're going to build it in-house. And this is something that Rico, the creator of NSwag and maintainer, has also mentioned. At this time, I'm not sure whether it makes sense to invest a lot more time in these libraries and try to compete with Microsoft. It can be a bit discouraging. Now, please leave a comment down below and let me know what you think about Microsoft doing this sort of thing, finding something that's currently done by an open source library and deciding to do it on their own, and how should these library authors react. But let's go a bit into the code and see what Microsoft is doing. Now, before I move on, I'd like to let you know that we just launched a brand new course on Domtrain called Deep Dive into Microservices Architecture, and it is a follow-up on the existing Getting Started with Microservice Architecture by AWS Solution Architect James Eastham. In this course, James goes really in-depth into microservice architecture, and he builds an entire system for you. So there's code, there's diagrams, there's explanations, there's so much packed into 4.5 hours. It is a unique opportunity to learn from someone who builds those types of things for a company as big as AWS. And it is an amazing opportunity to dive into this topic, because until the 20th of May, everyone who gets the deep dive course will also get the Getting Started course for free. You don't need to add it into your basket, just purchase the deep dive course on microservice architecture and the Getting Started course will automatically appear. Do not miss this opportunity. Now back to the video. Okay, so currently what we have here is, if you go into program.cs, you'll see this is development flag, and then you're going to see the Add Endpoints API Explorer and the Add Swagger Gen, and also use Swagger UI and use Swagger. With the release of .NET 9, those two things are going away. So you won't see the Swashbuckle.ASP.NET Core package anymore. This is going goodbye. And as you can see, this will now be removed. It's not usable. And this will now be removed. It's not usable. So what are your options? Well, Microsoft is saying that all you'll need now is the already referred package, Microsoft.ASP.NET Core.OpenAPI. Now I'm going to upgrade to the .NET 9 preview version, which I can do in this current form. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to upgrade this project into a .NET 9 project, update this first, and then update this second. And once I do that, I should be able to go on NuGet and I should be able to say install the pre-release. Here we go. And now we have .NET 9 preview 3. So that's great. What I'm going to do is remove this add endpoints API Explorer and this add Swagger gen. And I'm also going to remove it from here as well. And first I'll say builder.services.add open API. This will be the call you need to have on the DI service registration level. And then for mapping the exposure of the open API documentation through JSON format, you'd have to say app.map open API. And that is it. If you want to put this in development, you can. If you don't want to put this in development, you can leave it outside and only have a UI in development. That's completely up to you. Now, once you do that, you're going to have access to this endpoint. The endpoint is whatever your API is, and then Open API v1. That's the default. Now, this means that my launch profile will have to be updated to point to that. So I'm going to go to HTTP and say launch URL is this. Go ahead and run it and show me what the Open API documentation looks like. And here you go. We have that Open API JSON. We have version 3 here. We have all the info, the title, the version. Everything that Swagger would generate, we now have it using that Open API package. However, there's no UI. So what's happening if you want to introduce some form of UI into your application? Well, the good thing is you can take this JSON, and because it's the Open API standard, there's many tools that accept this and then build a nice UI for you. And here's an example. What I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce something called Scalar. Scalar will do exactly what Swashbuckle would do with Swagger. So what I'm going to do is here in development again, you don't have to have it under development. You can have it publicly exposed if you want. It's completely up to you. But here I'm just going to put it in development to imitate what I had with Swagger. And I'm going to say app.map scalar UI. Now this method does not exist. I'm going to have to introduce it. So I'm going to go over here and say scalar extensions. And I'm not going to add any NuGet packages. All I'm going to do is create a static class and then paste the following. If you need this code, you're going to find a link in the description down below. It's free. You can just get it and use it. And all this does by default is it maps a scalar endpoint with the document name, and then it just spits out some HTML, which has all the necessary code for us. So all I'm going to do now is include it here. And once I have that, I'm going to go back into running the application. But instead of using the JSON, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass v1 as the document name in my new mapped endpoint. So scalar v1, remove the JSON and call it. And now we have a very nice UI. You can see all your endpoints here. Swagger buys the application. We can have a dark mode or like Swagger, a blind mode. If you want that, I'm going to go back to dark mode and then click get. And I can see how I can curl that request, how I can send it. So I can say test request, pass authentication, pass API key, pass anything I need, query parameters. It's very, very nice. I don't need anything. I'm just going to say send. And you see request is sent and I have the response. And now very easily, you have a very, very nice UI built in. And this is the type of flexibility that having something like the Open API package built and expanded can offer. And of course, you can have client libraries. So if you want to build all that with, I don't know, is .NET here? There probably is. If there isn't, it's a shame. Yeah, the HTTP client. Let's create an HTTP client for this API. I'm going to go ahead, say client APIs, and then scroll down and you can see I have my HTTP client code that shows how I can write the code for this request. It's very nice. It's very neat. You can generate clients and you can do tons of things with it. But that's just one of the options. If you want to customize this, you still can. For example, if you want to change the document name, you can still say, I don't know, Swagger, but don't call it Swagger. You can say Open API, you can say V1, you can say V2, you can say whatever you want. You can customize the parameters as well. So if you want to pass an options object and customize anything about this document, you can. If you want to have a transformer, you can. If you want to, let's say, pass down bearer token instructions, you can still do it by having something like this at the very bottom. Let's just add all the missing packages, some code over here, and then in the options say use transformer and pass down what we just created, the bearer security scheme transformer. Again, if you need all that code down below, this does mean I have to actually add registration into the mix. So let's just quickly add all that and then add the jont package to support that as well. So let's go ahead and include that. And now if I run this, you will see that my package has been updated now to include security schemes, the bearer token, HTTP, JSON Web Token. And if I update this as well, I should be able to have the authentication here at the bottom. Authentication is bearer token. I can click on that and I can see the token or not, and so on. So yes, something is going away, but I think in general, Microsoft is doing it for the right reasons, and we will get some flexibility out of the box and way more features eventually. But now I want to know from you, what do you think about this situation? And are you in the camp that says that Microsoft should start building all these external NuGet packages in-house, or should they just somehow support them or maybe hire the developers? I don't know. I want to know your thoughts. Leave a comment down below and let me know. Well, that's all I have for you for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, keep coding.